Everybody knows you sweat, but do you really know how much you're actually losing? Which we're going to find out today with an hDrop hydration monitor. We got an exciting video for you today, a little bit different style versus just riding dirt bikes. So we're gonna figure out how much sweat I lose while riding dirt bikes and riding mountain bikes. So basically this thing straps up to my arm, I hook it up like a whoop and wear it while you're working out. It tracks how much you lose in water, like from your fluids, and it also tracks how much you lose in sodium and potassium. So it's really interesting to learn how much you actually lose and what you got to do to replenish that stuff. I did a couple days on a dirt bike. I'm up in Bend, Oregon right now working with Outlier Athlete and getting some working in person. So we're going to do some mountain bike riding today to see how much we lose over. I think we're going to do like a 2 or 3 hour mountain bike ride, kind of just zone 2 to 3, kind of lower heart rate, and see how much you lose of sweat in cold weather and at altitude, because you don't really necessarily feel the sweat dripping off of you, but you're still losing electrolytes, which it'll be interesting to kind of see how much you lose versus when it's hot. I already rode, so we'll go through the data from that and give you guys a rundown. So hDrop, it has an app on your phone. It's actually really cool. You kind of start the activity on your app and then you wear the hydration monitor. So the first day I wore it, I kind of turned it off and on between motos. So I would go out and ride and I would turn it on, and then when I got back I would turn it off. But I feel like when I did that, I actually didn't get the right data, because once you get off the track, not only you're not riding anymore, but you're still sweating, it's still hot. It was over 100 degrees that day. So I ended up going back out and doing another training session, a little bit different. So first day we did 20-minute motos, which I normally do 30s, but I did 3 20-minute motos. And it was interesting, like I lost a lot of sweat, but I broke it up, so I wasn't tracking what I lost in between the motos. So I do a 20-minute moto, and then I have like a 30-40 minute break, and then I go back out, do a 20-minute moto, do that kind of thing. But like I said, you're still sweating, so you don't really track that while the thing's off. So when I went back out and I did the track I went to, the first day was Paula, or Fox Raceway. That's a little higher speed, more like actual national style track. And then the next track I went to was kind of a private corner track, little slower speeds, so not as much airflow, and I did shorter motos. I think I did 15-minute motos, but I left the hydration monitor on the whole time, and it was still the same temperature, if not a little hotter. So the numbers from that are actually pretty crazy. So I'll throw the numbers up on the screen, kind of off to the side. Okay, the workouts I did at Paula when I turned it off and on. So the first session was a total of just under 39 minutes. That includes like a side lap warm up, and then going into I did a couple laps when I first got there, and then I went straight into the 20-minute moto. So this session for that day was the longest one that it tracked, which was just under 40 minutes. So I lost 22.4 ounces of fluid while riding, with an average sweat rate of 34.7 ounces per hour. And that's just water. So like you're losing that much water, or I was losing that much water per hour. The estimated sodium loss was 1,159 milligrams of salt. So that's just over 1.1 grams of sodium. And then the potassium loss was 151.2 milligrams of potassium. Pretty interesting. So this one I wore on my chest strap, the second moto. So you can either wear it on the armband that's included, which I feel like after running it a few days was the best. But I also brought out my chest strap that I wear with my Polar watch to kind of track heart rate. I personally don't like wearing those while riding dirt bikes because it ends up slipping down, and then by the time you're done with your moto or halfway through your moto, it's right around your waist, which is pretty uncomfortable, and you don't really get accurate data from that. So it's not recommended to wear it on the chest strap, which I found out after I did that. So it tracked in just over 20 minutes of riding. It tracked 16.1 fluid ounces of lost sweat with 685 milligrams of sodium and 89.43 grams of potassium. And then for the final moto of the day, it was a 45.3 minute session, which I think I left it on for a little bit longer. Like I got undressed and everything while it was on. So it tracked that, which I lost 23.6 ounces of fluid, which is similar to the first session with an average sweat rate of 31.3. I switched it back to the upper arm with the bicep strap, which I feel like was the better option for wearing it and kind of getting the data. And I lost 1,415 milligrams of sodium that session, which is higher than the last two, and 184.5 milligrams of potassium. I'm not gonna do the math in my head right now, but I'll have the total sweat loss, sweat loss and sodium loss and potassium loss up here on the left or the right, on this side of the screen, so you can kind of get an idea. But also, like I said, I didn't have it on during the breaks, so it's 100 degrees outside. I'm also sitting there sweating and trying to recover, and that's why it's not the most accurate data. So I went back out, and the next day, and this was in between the weeks of nationals. This was August 20th and August 21st. I don't know what national that was, but I was leaving the next day. So I usually ride Tuesday and Wednesday, the weeks that I have to travel, and then fly Thursday to the race. So this was in between the weeks, not necessarily the hardest training sessions, but I'm still getting laps in, still hot, like I said, over 100 degrees, and I'm still sweating. So this is good data to get. So in this session, it was a 243 minute session. So basically I put it on right before I went out, and I got dressed, I put it on, went out, did all my motos, and then when I left the track, I turned it off. So total fluid loss during this, I did 3 15-minute sessions on kind of a tighter style track, and then also had the breaks in between. It was also hot, like I said, 100 plus degrees, but I lost during that day, actually just that 4-hour session, 189 ounces of fluid. That's a lot of water. I'll put up how many bottles of water that you would have to drink to replenish that, but it's pretty crazy to think like, yeah, you sweat, but really how much do you lose? I ended up losing 10,310 milligrams of sodium, which it's pretty hard to kind of conceptualize how much sodium that is. So, like I said, this is just tailored to me. Maybe I'm a heavy sweater, maybe I lose more electrolytes than everybody else, but it's interesting to see how much you actually lose. And then as far as the potassium goes, I ended up losing 1,345 milligrams of potassium, which is a lot. So now that we went through all the numbers with on the bike training, we're gonna go today and do some colder weather. I think it's under 80 degrees out here in Bend, Oregon, and at elevation, and it's super dry, so the humidity level is pretty low. I'll plop up all the numbers for temperature and everything right here. But yeah, we're gonna go do some mountain biking. It's gonna be a little low intensity, but we're gonna figure out how much sodium we're actually losing. All wrapped up with the ride, ended up going 2 hours and 25 minutes. Average of like 125, 130 heart rate. So nice little ride. Okay, so we're back from the mountain bike ride. Gonna go over the numbers right now. It's pretty interesting. It ended up being a 2.5 hour low intensity mountain bike ride. Basically that whole time, like when it's hot out, you get soaked, your shirt's soaked, you can see that you're sweating, and you know that you're like losing your water and everything like that. But when we went on this ride, I didn't notice any of that. So it's interesting to wear the hydration monitor to kind of see how much fluid you're actually losing. During that ride, I ended up losing 97.1 ounces of fluid. 3 full sport bottles worth of water, just in sweat loss. And for that to be that much water loss, when you don't even know you're sweating, is pretty crazy. So like, it's important even when it's wintertime or fall and you're outside working and working out, riding mountain bikes, riding dirt bikes, even though you may not feel like you're sweating, you're still losing electrolytes and water, and it's important to stay up in your hydration. The sodium loss on that one ended up being 3,863 milligrams of sodium, which that's a pretty good amount of fluid, or I mean, that's a pretty good amount of sodium loss for, like I said, not feeling like you're sweating a lot. And then I lost 503 milligrams of potassium. Yeah, I mean, that's pretty interesting. Like I said, it's cool up here, high elevation, low humidity, so you don't feel yourself sweating, but losing fluid either way. Now, another thing that's important to remember is just because you're losing 3,863 milligrams of sodium in a 2-hour workout, you don't necessarily have to supplement in 3,000 milligrams of sodium to replace that, because you take in a lot of sodium when you eat with food, seasoning, and all that kind of stuff. So the recommended hydration recovery plan through hDrop's app, I mean, you kind of have to go for your own plan and work out what feels comfortable for you. But they recommend replenishing 1,165 milligrams of sodium extra, basically. So, like, supplement that in, whether you use electrolytes or eating. They recommend eating dill pickles sometimes. I prefer to use Next Hydration, obviously. Shameless plug, because we developed that specifically for sports. So, it also recommends you get an extra 33 ounces of fluid in, whether that be from a sports drink or just straight up water bottles. And then 148 milligrams of potassium. That's what's recommended for my body, or through the app, for what I lost during that workout. Now, to wrap this video up, basically I'll summarize all the electrolyte loss through the different workouts. Hot workout versus cold workout, and you can kind of see the difference. Even though, like I said, you're in hotter weather versus colder weather, you're still sweating, you're still losing electrolytes. The main thing, you got to replenish. You out there working out, a lot of people don't take in enough sodium, and they definitely do not take enough potassium. So it's important to have a high quality electrolyte. It's important to have a clean diet, and don't be afraid to use salt. Like, everybody likes to demonize salt, but it's really good, especially if you're an active person, and it has a lot to do with how you feel, like whether you're groggy, muscle cramping, and it helps a lot with performance. So that's the end of today's video. Make sure you guys like, comment. If you have any questions, I'm always down to do new videos, so make sure you guys drop a suggestion down below, and we'll catch you in the next one. These things, they burn before they shine.